Hello, and welcome to episode 72 of the Naked Eye Podcast. This is Nathan Oxenfeld, and today I'm joined by a special guest, Rikke Godthjaelp from Copenhagen, Denmark. Rikke is a practitioner and teacher of Auriculomedicine, which is essentially a form of advanced auriculotherapy, which is essentially the application of either acupuncture or even color puncture applied to specific portions of the ear which are connected to other parts of the body and being in order to achieve a desired result. Not too different than how we understand that the application of certain light and color to the eyes can also achieve a desired result. So I was initially intrigued to meet Rikke at the International Light Association conference in Croatia 4 years ago, because I had received traditional acupuncture before, and in those acupuncture sessions, yes, they placed needles in my ears in order to address other parts of the body, since it's all connected. But I had not met someone who was using color. So instead of sticking needles in the ear, she's using specific color therapy devices and tools that shine specific frequencies and colored lights onto those areas. And not only can this have overall healing potential, various different things can get sorted out this way, but in our conversation today, we kind of hone in on one particular application for PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. And hopefully our talk will give you a little taste or a little preview of what we're going to be sharing more of in some pretty cool events coming up, where Rikke and I, plus a handful of other color practitioners and light therapists, are going to be offering both a free workshop in October and a weekend virtual retreat in November. So we'll share a little bit more about that towards the end, but just wanted to mention that at the start as well, in case you're interested in joining on either October 10th or November 11th and 12th, 2023. And on a separate topic, my colleague Barry Alcatel and I are planning on offering another 22-day vision tune-up this November. We led our first 22-day vision tune-up earlier this year in June, and I got to say, honestly, that was one of the highlights of my entire year. This is where we hosted a group program that met up every weekday for the entire month, which is a total of 22 days, for just 15 or 20 minutes a day. So it's these little short meetings, little tiny doses of the Bates method and various forms of natural vision improvement. And I was pretty astounded to see the pretty impressive results that a lot of people in the group were getting, not only by the end of the month, but even just within the first week and second week of the program. So we'll be opening the registration up for that later in October, so keep an eye out for that. And also keep an eye out for more episodes coming, because I recognize that there's been a little bit of a pause in the Naked Eye podcast interviews, and I kind of addressed that a little bit in the last video I put up on YouTube, where I'm actually thanking everybody for helping me reach 40,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, as well as just giving a little bit of an update with what's been going on my end. So if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, head over to YouTube, search for either Nathan Oxenfeld or Bates Method 101, and you'll find lots of free materials over there to help you put a lot of this stuff into practice as well. So I'm excited to host my first interview at my new space since I recently moved. So why don't we jump over to my conversation with Rikke Godthjaelp and see what we can learn more about our ears and how we can actually incorporate them into our healing protocol as well, just like we have been with our eyes. All right. Very happy to be joined by Rikke Godthjaelp today. Can't wait to dive into some of these conversations. You're joining us from Copenhagen, and we met in Europe originally back in Croatia several years ago. So really excited to have you on the show to get a preview of your work and also what you and I are going to be working on together this year with the Color Lights World Project organization in our retreat in November. So we'll get into all that, but really happy to have you here today, Rikke. Welcome to the Naked Eye podcast.
Thank you very much, Nathan. Very happy to be here. It's I was so happy that you asked me if I wanted to share with you, and I said of course, and I'm really looking forward to to talk about colors and whatever you and me were working on. So that's I'm very happy to be here. And yes, we met in Pula in 2019. Mm-hmm. And it was an amazing congress about this color and light and many different ways of working with color and light, and the many ways that it has an effect on our body and well-being, our health, our physical health, our mental health. Yeah. So
yeah, I remember at the end of this, weekend conference of hearing speakers and people really opening my eyes to all the various ways we can work with color and its effect on health and wellness. And out in the lobby, there was lots of different tables and vendors and people giving previews and experiences and little samples of things. And I remember just pretty much at the very end, people were starting to pack up all their things. And I had hit most of all the tables and met most people, but I didn't make it to yours. And so I kind of saw you putting your stuff away, and I asked if, I could sit down, and you gave me a little sample of shining colors on my ears and kind of explaining the work that you do. And then, that piqued my interest initially. But then after that, then our friend Gabrielle Buresh-Teichmann, organized this group, the Color Lights World Project. And since then, over the past 4 years, we've gotten to work together and teach classes together and collaborate and see. So yeah, I've been really excited for this, and you've been on my list for a while. So maybe I can just kind of hand it over to you if you want to take a moment to sort of explain how you got into the work that you do, and then sort of we can take it from there in terms of where it overlaps with some of the stuff that I do as well.
Sure, 100%. So first, just to clarify, I didn't have a booth, but I was showing how to use a specific tool at a booth. So it was not mine, but it is a tool that I work with regularly, or I say regularly, it's all the time actually. So I kind of showed how to work with that. But yeah, well, I am an acupuncturist, like a traditional Chinese medicine, TCM acupuncture. When I was taking that education, I wanted to have some practical, I don't know what you call it, practical learning. So I asked a therapist that was living not far away from my school at that time, or that had a clinic there, if I could follow her once a week. And at that point, this is many years ago, at that point, it was not something that you had to do now for the education of to become an acupuncturist. You have to have many hours like that, but you didn't have to. So this was kind of an initiative I took to get a better understanding of how you work in a clinic, all these, basic things that you actually do. But she turned out to inspire me very much in the way that she was working. And she was working with something called Posturology, which means posture science. And that really, that blew my mind, that you can, by putting a needle in the ear or two, change the whole body posture. So that was kind of my first, I don't know, what can you call it, like seeing the light. And to work with posturology, you use auriculotherapy as a tool. So posturology is more like doing tests to understand the body posture, and then to treat the body posture, to work the body posture, you use auriculotherapy. And auriculotherapy is, you might know it as ear acupuncture, but it just, when you say ear acupuncture, it limits the way you work with it. So I like to use the original word, which is auriculotherapy. Auriculo is the ear, so it's therapy based from the ear. And when you work with auriculotherapy, you work with needles, TCM needles or ASP needles, which are small needles staying in the ear. You could put small metal or magnets on the ears that can do a little pressure. But one of the things that I find really fascinating is the frequencies and the colors. And when you use auriculotherapy, when you get into the advanced part, it's called Auriculomedicine or advanced auriculotherapy. And you start working with the pulse and you start working with the different colors. And this really took off for me. I started teaching auriculotherapy and auriculomedicine around 2010. So it was just before that I really started. Well, the frequencies was the first thing, and then the colors kind of came. I think it's for me, like for many other people, is this, I don't know if you call it disbelief, or can it really be true? Can you really do this with colors? I mean, most people understand that if you go into a room that's painted black or dark purple or something, that it's kind of, it compresses the room. But does it really have that big an effect if you put the light on your body? Because I mean, everybody would, I would reason in my mind, yes, but I use a color blouse, but does it really change my mood? Does it really have an effect on me? And by coincidence, you would put light on your body all the time. So does it really heal like that? And I think what one has to understand when working with colors is that it's not a small touch of light. When we work with the tools that we do with color, it's focused and it's very strong. It's a lot of photons coming on the body. So for me in the beginning, I was like, do you have to believe it?
Maybe
and
a little skeptical.
Yes, but I think actually I really like being skeptical, and I like people are skeptical. Being skeptic is very healthy, because it's you don't just jump into anything. It's if you're open skepticism would be very healthy, or is very healthy, because we need to feel it on our body. Does it actually, like, what does it actually do? And I think for me, it was seeing the difference it made when because in the beginning, because I was an acupuncturist, I would naturally use acupuncture on the ear. So what I started seeing was this teacher I was very fascinated about. He would use frequencies first and then put a needle after, but only if it was necessary. And I started working like that, and I saw that it made a huge difference. And then I got this color tool, and then I really got into it. It was like working with colors, putting colors on the body changed the what you call it. It changed the results that I got from my sessions. So,
and when you say frequency, are you referring to, is that referring to color, or are you referring to a different?
No, so when you work with auriculotherapy, you work with frequencies and colors. Yeah, and I can understand that could confuse it, that could be confusing, because colors are, of course, frequency. But what we work with is a frequency with no color. That is just it's a electrical frequency that's carried out by electrons going through the sphere. So you would point with something that has just or you could put a red color, but just to transport the frequencies, but you can also do it without colors. So the first thing I worked with was frequencies with no colors. Gotcha. And then we would only use the colors to know where we were pointing to, but the frequency would be the main object. And then and now it's actually, these colors were always there, but it's it's becoming bigger and bigger, and also because the tools to work with it very seriously has been is available now in a way that it hasn't been, at least to my knowledge, before. I have seen many color tools, but the amount of lumen, the amount of color photons coming out of the device has not been great, which means that you either need to treat for very long time, or you have results that I don't know. I'm very impatient, so it would probably take more treatments. But I mean, you would probably have results, but it would take more time. Is my feeling. Yeah. So can I share something that I find fascinating about colors? This was actually my partner who told me about this, and because I think that this might open up the understanding of why it is that colors, or maybe, yes, why it is that colors has an effect, or how it has an effect on our body, not why maybe as much as why as how. So like I work with needles. So when I put a needle in, or when you inflict like something, a hard pressure, it goes through the nerves to the central nervous system, and goes into the brain, into the limbic system. And the limbic system is in the center of the brain, and around it you have this cape, or this the cortex. And but inside the limbic system you have a little kirtle. I don't know what it's called in English. Well, you have this little area called thalamus.
Yeah.
And thalamus is the secretary of pain, or secretary. It's the secretary of information coming from the body to the brain, and from the brain out into the body. So it's kind of going through the thalamus. And so when you have pain that comes to the thalamus, it goes to the cortex, and the cortex says, oh, this hurts, or it hurts a little, or it's uncomfortable. But when you caress the arm like this, it goes through thalamus, it goes to thalamus the same way, but then it goes around in the limbic system, and we don't really know exactly how. It's the same way that light comes into the body. It's like a caress on the arm. So that gives, for me, it was like mind-blowing to see, so that is why that the light has such a big influence on our emotions. Because going into the limbic system is where we have all our hormones, or we don't have them there, but they are regulated from this area. And these hormones regulate how we feel. It can be if we feel cold or warm, or hungry or thirsty or tired, but also when we feel horny or sad or angry, or happy or exaggeratedly happy, like whatever it is, all these emotions are kind of balanced within the limbic system. So once you put color on the arm, or when you caress the arm, it goes to the limbic system, and it has an emotional effect on how you feel. And we already know that, the way somebody touches us, and who touches us, and how it feels, and if it's warm or cold has an effect on us. And the same with colors. So the colors are kind of a caress to the body. It's kind of a caress on the skin, and then understands it, go to the hormonal system, and then I don't know if it explains it to the area, or it gives information to that area. We don't really know how it works, but we can see it works.
Yeah.
I
love that analogy, and also the relationship with just the nervous system, and how it really can influence the state that we're in, and the physical state, mental state, emotional state. And maybe it's not intellectual or logical, but it's this deep feeling that something's working, deep in the brain, and different signals are being sent to initiate different kind of nervous system.
Exactly. It takes time when something goes around in the limbic system, when this information travel in the limbic system, it takes time. But when you inflict pain, it's super fast. It goes to the thalamus, it goes to the cortex, and it lights up when you are inside a scanner. But if you are inside a scanner, you cannot stay there for a day or for a week or for a month to see how you react. And this is one of the things when I work with light. Sometimes, it's immediate response, and other times it takes time.
Mhm.
And my thought about it is that it's more sensitive. The color is more sensitive to the person that it works on. So it's I don't know how the body understands to release it at the right time, but it's like for some people it takes process, and other people are kind of ready. So
Yeah.
it's so when you work with color, it for some reason it's more organic in some way. It's very do you say humanistic? I don't know what the word would be, or humane is also a word that's not quite the right one, but I think it works within the very specific person's own frequencies. So
Yeah.
it's not something that you can say it's always like that, because it would be like this on me, but it would be different on you,
Mhm.
depending on where we are and what we're ready for.
That makes a lot of sense. Kind of like the color is meeting us where we're at, and vice
Yes,
versa. And
yes.
and a very similar thing shows up in the vision work. The other podcast I do, the Better Eyesight podcast, reads through some of the original articles and case histories of people benefiting from the Bates method when it first originated in the early 1900s. And you see all these cases of people having these kind of same day improvements, or these like really fast recovery with their eyesight. And then most people don't have that experience. Most people, it takes longer. It's a more gradual process. And people wonder, like, how come it worked immediately for them and not for me? That doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means you're at a different place. Maybe that other person was a little more ready, so to speak, to release old habits and adopt new habits.
Yeah.
And maybe this person isn't quite ready yet. And that's a natural part of the process to kind of, I think, hesitate to change, or to kind of latch on to certain things that are kind of keeping us stuck. So yeah, that's interesting that you said that about how the
Yeah,
color
and
can really respond differently.
exactly. And that we're not just, it's not, it's not like you are ready and I'm not. It's I am ready on some levels and not ready on other levels. And you are
Correct.
more ready on some levels and less ready on other levels. So it's not like a
Yeah.
person is not just ready or not ready. It's
Right.
we're all in waves of readiness, or explored things we have explored, or things that we have been going through or accepting, or worked with therapeutically or
Hmm.
emotionally. So yeah.
And coming back to that skeptic topic, is I agree with you that I think this healthy skepticism is good. And I had a lot of skepticism when I first learned about the vision improvement work. I'd never heard of it before. It was kind of too good to be true almost. And I was just meeting with another vision teacher earlier this week, and she has this great little saying of, I'm happy to work with skeptics, not cynics.
Oh yes. Yes.
Like, and what you said, like that open-mindedness with the skepticism is good,
It's very
but
healthy.
maybe some element of, cynicism or close-minded skepticism, may not respond the same way when they get a color treatment or a vision treatment or something like that. So really interesting how
Maybe,
our mind plays a
yeah.
role in how it unfolds.
Maybe not, but also we have to remember that cynicism comes from trauma.
Yeah.
So you're cynic if you're protecting yourself. So
Mhm.
if you meet the right therapist at the right time, at the right moment, that can be very healing. I
Yeah.
have experienced it, people coming for hurting the shoulder or something, and it's turning out to be working with healing the healing traumas from childhood or from working places, or whatever. It's um I think the human interaction, it's always been important, but it's getting very clear how important it is. And I think that we are getting more and more aware of that after this whole period of close down, and we can now communicate like we are doing here, which is amazing. I mean, it's amazing that we can communicate on Zoom or whatever element it is that we are, or platform we're working from. But I think that we are finding that this human connection or connection with creatures around us is very, very important to the spirit and to trauma releasing. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that, I think, it sounds like that's a big part of your work in helping people move through that type of thing. And I was going to kind of pose you the question of, when, you think about your clients, the people you work with, you've mentioned a couple things today, like physical pain in the shoulder, and then also this more kind of trauma-based pain, more maybe mental. And so do you feel like there's sort of a mix of that you work with people? Is it kind of skew more in one direction or the other? And I also did want to ask you about if you have any of your own personal stories or experiences of how, working with color yourself has changed your life or things like that. So kind of a twofold question there, but I did want to kind of see if our conversation could go into different ways to release traumas and deal with the mental pain and that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. So first, the first question or the first thing you mentioned was actually in Danish we say psykosoma, so emotions and body and emotional. It's always a two components in my understanding. And sometimes what takes up most space is the emotional part, like you feel stressed or you feel vulnerable, you feel hurt, whatever, but your body will react physically to that. And if it's not something that you release, you will at that moment or later in your life get a back pain or a headache or pain in your knee, whatever. There will be a physical reaction to that. Then if not released in the mind, then it will also, then if locked in the mind, it will lock in the body. And so it's vice versa. So if you have a physical trauma, it will also affect you emotionally, and how you work with your physical trauma will also affect you emotionally. And sometimes I find, I mean, I've been working with people since, I think I had my first education was in 1989, and I got my own clinic in 2004, but I have actually worked with people since I was very, very young. I started massaging people. I did karate when I was young, and we actually had to massage each other. And so after that, I just started massaging everybody. So I think I've been kind of doing therapy since I was a child.
There you go.
Yeah, it's something that I can help. I tried actually not to become a therapist because I was really tired of other people's problems, but it didn't work. Yeah. It's just I think it's a calling. Anyway, sometimes you work with a person and I mean, everybody's tried it that suffered from pain or a physical problem that it doesn't help, it doesn't work. And then I think you need to go to see what's blocked in the mind. Because if you can't work with the body, you need to find out what is blocking inside. And the same goes the other way, because, many people talking about the emotions, the psyche, forget that many things are blocked in the body. So if you need to release trauma emotionally, you have to remember the body. You can't the body is not just a carrier of your spirit and your ideas, your brain, so you can go and do things. It's very important to heal your body as well. That is also the journey. And so for me, it's super interconnected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So when you talk about the eyes, for me, the eyes is actually, I always, when I teach about auriculotherapy this last weekend, and we were talking about the eyes and how the eyes is both affecting us very physically and very emotionally.
Yes.
Because the eyes, if they don't work well together, when we work with posturology, in our way of understanding, when the eyes don't work together, we can see that the body starts twisting physically.
Yeah.
And when you twist on one part of the body, you will get pain because then another part will do something opposite to maintain some kind of balance.
Yeah, to compensate.
Yes, compensate, exactly. And so that balance is from the eyes. And then the eyes is also a big part of what we call laterality, like the right and the left hemisphere working together.
Yeah.
So laterality is affecting us, like, are we stressed? Can we focus? Can we be mentally like strong on reading or writing? Do we understand letters? Do we understand numbers, dyslexia, dyscalculia? All these things has to do with the eyes and the way the brain works.
Right.
And this way of understanding the world around us is also through our eyes. So there are so many things happening with the eyes and the emotions. So I think that you would know that from your work.
Absolutely. Yeah, it comes up in pretty much every person I work with. Is a lot of times it starts on the more kind of physical level and working with the eye organs and the body, and kind of relaxing the muscles and the nerves and the tendons. How can we get some more circulation going? All that good stuff. But pretty quickly people deepen it and they discover these other elements, the emotional piece, the piece of the past and maybe unresolved problems or traumas, and how that's a part of the vision improvement process as well. And my vision teacher developed, it's called the rapid healing technique, which is kind of the side practice that goes along with the vision improvement process, which is designed to clear the fears and clear the traumas that not only we bring into the process, but then the different things that come up as we go on the journey and we encounter things along the way, and even things about the future that we're afraid of or stressed about, we can kind of address that. So it's like, if that piece is missing, if there's not some way to process the inner work, then maybe just the physical vision practices might not have as much of a result or effect. So when we've got both there, it seems to be very conducive for making some tangible changes.
Yeah.
But what you said earlier really caught me when you said how the pain moves so fast, how that immediate signal, and we get that signal in the brain. And then you said how like maybe the color moves slower, or what I was hearing also is how relaxation moves kind of slower.
Yeah.
And how it just is this different approach instead of this kind of quick fix kind of approach. It's like, day by day, little incremental changes that will eventually lead to bigger changes.
So I think that you're completely right that the slow process is very important to be able to be in, and we are very eager to have the quick fix. And at the same time, when I teach, I talk about how that the quick fix can actually also have an improving effect on our healing, because sometimes we are in so much pain that we have no possibility to go to a quiet place inside ourselves. So sometimes we need to kind of heal something fast, like take some pain away, take some stress away, just like take it away if we can, because then there is the possibility of getting to the quiet place, because you have to be able to get there to self-heal, because if there is no connection, that is not possible. And when we work with the peripheral, do you call it peripheral nervous system, there is the sympathetic and the parasympathetic part of that. And when you work on the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fear and flight part, and the parasympathetic is the rest and restitute. It's when you work on one, you work on the other.
Mhm.
So it's like you cannot work on one without affecting the other. They're kind of interconnected all the time. So,
Yeah.
but if this one is making so much noise, it's very difficult to cultivate the parasympathetic. So if this one
Yeah.
is like, "Wah," if there's a lion screaming at you, if you have a boss, "Wah," if you have money problems, if it's something really yelling at you, it's very difficult to cultivate the parasympathetic area. So you kind of need to get that down, and then you will raise a bit of the parasympathetic. And then the more you cultivate this, the more you can, and I don't like the word control, but in some way you can control the sympathetic, because you can just say, okay, I choose to elevate my parasympathetic area, which will then decrease my sympathetic arousal, my sympathetic reaction.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Does it make
It's
sense?
kind of delicate, it seems kind of subtle, and one word you said earlier is, to get to that quiet place. And
Yeah.
so it's like, how does something quiet, overpower something so loud, but it's possible. And it's really interesting how through practice we can, maybe I like the word influence.
Yes.
We can kind of influence that different kind of response and kind of condition the nervous system a little differently. But Dr. Bates does have an article from 100 years ago called Mental Control, which at first might sound kind of strange or harsh, because I also don't really like to use that word control very much. But that's kind of what you were talking about, of gaining a certain level of mental control to elevate that, and I love that word you use, choice. I choose this.
I choose to go
Because
to a quiet place. I
yeah,
choose.
because the really loud version, to me, it doesn't sound like there's a choice. It's just like that's there, and okay, I'm just going to deal with that. But no, I'm going to make this other choice and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if this is a good example, but I know I used to work in kindergarten many years ago. We were taught to talk lower, and the more the loud the children were, the lower we were talking. Also, I learned, I think maybe it was from when I had my children that we were taught this. Talk lower, talk
Interesting. Yeah.
lower, because the lower you talk, then everybody's, if they want to hear it, have to be quiet. So
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of, and this, I'm thinking that this is also the way to talk to your nervous system. If you say, okay, if I talk lower to myself, if I don't yell at myself for not being good enough or competent enough or doing enough, if I kind of find that quiet, again, the quiet place where I nurse the stillness, then this at some point, it just fall apart in some way, because it becomes uninteresting to the body. It's just, I don't need it. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, now I'm going into this. It's just
No,
I find it very fascinating.
no, this is great, because I hear it from my vision students a lot. Like once we check in, it's like, hey, how have things been going since our last meeting? And a lot of times it'll be kind of like, I haven't done that much. I'm kind of behind. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. And to me, those are kind of like, the voices of the sympathetic, kind of
Yes.
chattering
Yes.
away. And so it's like, how do we build those strategies to kind of take a look at our self-talk, and maybe not only see if we can kind of have it be a little lower volume or kind of quieter in nature, but even kind of slower, like slow the speech down, have it take a little bit longer to have that thought go through. Because
No
like
food.
all the sympathetic stuff seems very fast, like the money problems, the stress, this, that, and it's like this kind of speeding up. And your kindergarten story reminds me of being in like a loud, scrolling on the phone, incessant scrolling. Your kindergarten story was, I've also experienced that in restaurants, where if you're in like a busy restaurant, and if the restaurant is playing like loud, kind of fast BPM music, like everybody's talking really loud and chattering, and people end up eating faster because the pace of the music, and a lot of times it's subconscious, we're not even really paying attention to it. But then maybe you go into like a different restaurant that has like kind of quiet,
Yeah.
maybe jazz music or something, and like everybody's talking a little quieter, and like you can hear the clinking of the utensils and stuff. And
It's true. It's true. I think it's a strategy from for some restaurants to do
yeah,
that.
yeah, get more
So,
turnover.
yes, I think so. Yeah, actually. Yeah. It's a little sad.
And also colors, right? There's been studies about the colors inside the restaurant, how that affects people's
Colors
behaviors.
in
And
restaurants, at therapy, at when you go to a therapist, in there's been a famous study done in a jail, or it was not an actual jail. It was a place where they had to. I don't know what you call it when it's not quite jail yet. I don't know what you call it in English, but and you can see that these colors has an effect on behavior. So yes, colors definitely have an effect on behavior and how we feel. And another thing you can see on people how they feel from also the colors that they choose to wear. Are you naturally prone to a color which is also an expression of your emotions? And actually, and I feel like talking about something that we just did. We are a group of therapists at the Godthjalp Institute, which is actually also called Godthjalp Maugendre Institute, because Stéphane Maugendre has joined this institute now. So now it's Godthjalp Maugendre, I should say.
cool.
Yeah, it's actually really cool because
Yeah.
he's a doctor and a therapist, a auriculotherapist. So he has another angle on it. Where I come from one world, he's from another world, and those discussions are very very important to get both sides. And we're both very open to that, to the other world,
Nice.
because I think that's very important, and I think that this would be the future for therapy to work, is to be able to talk, so that hospital people could talk with alternative therapists. Yeah, but that's another speak. That's for another day, I think, because that we could talk about that for a long time. But we actually did a study in our group, and the study we have been diving into the latest is the one about PTSD. What we did was that we in our group, I should first explain a little. In our group, we all work with the pulse, also called VAS or RAC. So we take the pulse and we use that. So when we put a color on the body or on the ear, we can feel how the pulse changes, and from that we decide to treat on an area or not to treat.
Okay.
Yeah, so the body has this magnetic field on its skin, is electrical field, and when there is a decrease in that area, we know that it's a sign that there is a problem in the part of body that ear part is related to. So that was a technical explanation. So
Yeah.
when you put the light on that area, the way the pulse feels will be different. So we know that, okay, now we're on an area that is pathological, that is like sick in some way, emotionally, physically, whatever. And so we can stay on that area and treat until that area is kind of healed.
Hmm.
And
And then you'll feel the difference in the pulse.
feel straight away.
Yeah.
As soon as it's enough, as soon as that kind of is encapsulated, the body will say, thank you, I don't need it anymore. And then the pulse will change, and then we can go on.
I see.
Yeah, it's amazing. So we decided to use one color, and we decided to work on people with PTSD. And we've been working with veterans mostly, and actually mostly women in shelters, and then also veterans, which is the main focus group, these two groups. And they all have different kinds of traumas, but they all have deep traumas, which we call PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. So just to explain a little about how color therapy works, because you also asked me, can you tell about something that you personally experienced?
Yeah.
And of course, I have experienced it on my own body, not from the PTSD, because I don't know that I suffer from PTSD. You never know. But I have, of course, personally experienced the treatment on my body. But what we did on this study, I would like to share. What we did was we had these different people that we wanted to treat. We didn't treat them at the same time. They were all in one room at different times.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that was special for me about this, I have been to a lot of therapy. For me, my body is my temple, so I think I really need to take care of it. So I've been to a lot of therapy, and many kinds of therapy, you need to speak a lot. And when you have PTSD, there is very often not that kind of energy in the body to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Many times you get tired really fast. As soon as you have to speak about anything, it can be the menu of the day. As soon as you have to read or speak or communicate, you get really tired. And then speaking about your problem, which you've probably already spoken to your therapist about many times, it's really tiresome. And it's not always that it's not always that you feel secure in the beginning. So what we wanted to try and do was can we treat it without sharing?
Mm.
Can we treat this PTSD without the person having to share the trauma?
Right.
And this was our experience that you could. So I will just explain a little bit about it. What the theme was that when you have when you have PTSD, you get these flashbacks. Very often, if you had an accident, you will see. I all the time see this car. I just see this car on the right side. I see the picture from when this car is coming, and then the next picture I see is I see this blue light blinking, or there is these pictures that are very clear, or I see this man holding my throat, or I hear a gunshot, and I see this explosion. I remember this man, he saw a rock in front of him that he was scared of because it could have been used to kill him or something.
Mm-hmm.
So these things are these grown-in images.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you say grown-in, but it's flashbacks. It's a steady, what do you call it, like
I would maybe say like burned into the memory.
Burned into the memory, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want to do is that make that memory dissolve or become and if I say indifferent, understand me right, because you remember neutral. Yes, neutral is a very good word. So you'll remember what happened, but you will not be connected to it emotionally. Yeah. So what we could see is that if you focus on one picture and then we treat you with this special frequency, the special color, and it is a color, but it also has a frequency, of course. So this special color, we treated maximum of 5 points, and we would note what points we found. And what we could see is that we made a score before and just after, and they fell from an average of 9 out of 10, where 10 was really really horrible, to and 0 is nothing. They fell from 9 to an average of 2. Wow. And yes, and out of the 30 that we treated, 19 fell to under from 0 to 1. So that's quite a good score. And then we called them after 1 month. We called them after a month to hear how are you doing with that image that you were working on. We asked them to write down just a code word so that they could remember it, because sometimes it disappears so much that you can remember it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had to write down just something so that they could remember. And we asked them, how are you emotionally attached? How does it affect you now? And it went from 1.8, which was what it fell to 1.2 on an average. And I think it was it 15 of them that fell to complete 0, so nothing at all, like no emotions at all. And we had a VOC score, which is how does this change your life, what do you call it? How does this improve your life from 7, which is really good, to 0, which is nothing, like nothing has changed in my life. And we had a score of 6.2 on that. So it had changed 30 people, like almost to, like many of them had 7, of course, and then a few had just less than that because this is an average, but I think that's quite amazing that from treating somebody, and we said, I put aside 30 minutes for the treatment, all in all, coming in, going out, and the actual treatment took maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is colors. So you asked me, what do you do with colors? And this is some of the things we do with colors, and this is amazing. And this, the only thing we treated was colors.
Right.
Nothing else. Nothing. There was nothing else. There was no needles, no talking about it, no saying, tell me more about it. How was your childhood? What did your mother say? Or how did this affect your growing up? Nothing. We didn't talk about it. If they wanted to, they could say what it was, but there was no back communication. Like, it was not a therapy session talking forth and back.
Right. Yeah.
If they had the need to tell, they could tell, but they didn't have to. Yeah.
It's almost sort of like, just kind of going straight to the source and kind of being efficient with it. And to me, I'm getting a lot of sense of, yes, there's this application being done with the color, and I get the sense that you're also creating this empowering kind of self-healing space for people as well, because you're sort of inviting them not to keep it to themselves or keep it in a form of like suppressing it or kind of damping it down, but this kind of permission to reflect on that image, in a new way, or carve a new pathway or something. And so that's beautiful to provide people with that kind of sense of freedom and liberation from being kind of stuck in a rut like that.
It's actually very funny that you say that, because what we chose to do to be sure that it was a light working, we allowed 2 minutes where we did nothing. So we started by saying, keep this image in your mind and stay there for 2 minutes. And the first 2 minutes we did nothing. And we had 2 people self-heal. They went from like 9 or 10 or 8 to 0 within 2 minutes. Everything was gone and we had done nothing. So they are, of course, not a part of the study, because that was just the self-healing in the space.
We're
talking about just being with a person, just being allowed to fill your body with that emotion and that thought and that image, and then it left. So we couldn't use them in the study because
they benefited all the same.
It was wonderful. It's wonderful to see that. And this is why when we do that kind of thing, like leave space to do that. And we have other things we also put into it, but this is kind of the basics. And it's really, I would say, amazing then to work with people like that, and to see how people can then move around more freely in their life after that. And I would like to say, because often when you hear these interviews, it's always everything is amazing. So I have to say that not everything is amazing, because for those 10 minutes, you have to be with your trauma. Yes. And that is not necessarily an amazing experience. So I can't say that you just come in and you are happy and you leave, you are happy. It's not a happy
rainbows and lollipops.
Because every time you see interviews with these therapists, it's always like everything is easy and it's just doom. So the actual therapy for me to give is not difficult. To be in the space, I think you have to be able to stay with a person that is really emotionally in a process. And that person that is getting the therapy, that is in that terror, is of course having a bad time for those first 2, 3, 5 minutes, whatever, until it starts disappearing. So you have to be able to go into that space. You have to be willing to be in that space. And this is why I think it's amazing that you don't have to share. Some people really wanted to share. They wanted to tell. They wanted to be very specific. Other people just shared one thing just to get into that place. And other people, they were just like, just fill their mind with it. And that was enough. They were immediately at a 10 or a 9 of discomfort. So you will feel discomfort when you do this therapy. you will have to do that work to be at that memory, at that picture, at that emotion, at that smell, at that feeling of feeling the cold floor when you hit the floor in that, or the feeling of somebody touching you like that. You have to be in that, be able to dare to be in that vulnerable. Yes, it's very intense when you are there.
Yeah, because I think probably up to that point, the natural response is a lot of avoidance or aversion, and sort of keeping that feeling at bay so that we can function and do our best to live our lives. And so yeah, that's, glad you brought that up. Of
survival
kind
instinct.
of, what was that?
Survival instinct.
Yes, yeah,
Kind of.
yeah, right. But wow, yeah, how amazing that you're giving people the flexibility and the choice of the amount that they do want to get out there verbally, because I know for myself that feels really good sometimes to share and to express and to communicate. But it's not the only way, and it's so amazing that you're exploring these other ways to achieve similar goals.
Yes, and because you say that you very very much like to share, but I'm also somebody who really likes to share my emotion, and then sometimes I'm really not. I
Right.
really feel like just like I'm just completely. Whew, I really don't feel like sharing with words. I feel like sharing with just like, can you just be in my presence? It's like feeling like somebody just can you just sit next to me? You know that feeling?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
just sit here? Can I just not be alone? Can I just, be here without having to give or take, or just let's just share the space, the presence, the breath, the
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 being. Yeah.
nothingness.
Hmm.
Yeah, the being. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean that this all just, yeah, sounds very in line with sort of the protocol I mentioned earlier, the rapid healing technique. I use that term clearing fears or clearing traumas. And I like to kind of clarify that it's, and you did it, you said it perfectly earlier, where we're not just extracting these memories from our brain so that they don't exist anymore. It's that we're clearing the charge around it, and we're finding ways to still have it be a part of ourselves and a part of our story without it maybe causing so much of that stress or that strain or that trigger. And in the work that I do, a lot of times it also then translates into difficulty focusing physically, and having a hard time seeing things because of this, block within. So that would naturally be something I would be really curious in the people that you've worked with who have found ways to remove or clear some of the charge around some of these mental pictures and mental imagery and memories. You're finding that it's having a positive impact on their overall life and quality of life. And then I would also be really interested in, like, does this potentially have any effect on eyesight, and like, are you literally seeing things differently now? So that's for me why I love exploring this link of bringing the emotions in, and really working with the inner vision, because that's kind of what you're describing, is these flashbacks as an inner vision.
Very much so. Very much an inner vision, inner picture. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I think I was just thinking, or I just remembered one thing when you said this thing that does it change the vision? And I don't know if this is something that's been done a study on, but it's definitely something that we talk about in my line of work, is that colors change when you're feeling blue or when you're feeling happy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that everything seems a little more grayish, and then when you are really happy, colors are more bright.
Mm.
And I think it's a thing. I don't know if somebody did studies on it. I don't know if it's something that you can measure, but I definitely think it's a thing, and it's something that I notice now in myself when I feel bad, is that the colors around me changes. the way I perceive the colors. It's not like green becomes red, but it becomes less bright, less energetic, less
Yeah.
yeah. So it's very much the eyes that sees.
Yeah, right. Because it's probably the same quality of light or the same reflection from the object, but it's like how
What
are
you
the
take it
eyes actually
as.
perceiving it and taking it in and reflecting it back? And yeah, so maybe people can, either relate to that already or maybe start to kind of look for that and see if you can monitor like how your mental state affects your color perception, your visual acuity, or even just your mood, how you're feeling or your breathing, or there's so many different ways we can kind of quantify or qualify this. But I hope that this conversation, some of these conversations we've been having, have been really striking chords in people and really helping people kind of make certain realizations about themselves and their process. And maybe it would also intrigue people to learn more. And so not only do we have some amazing events coming up in October and November that we'll share a little bit more about, but first of all, do you want to just take a moment to let people know how to learn more about you and your work and your institute and everything?
Yes, thank you. If you want to learn more about our institute, that can start by saying the homepage address would be gmiinstitute.com. This is Godthjalp Maugendre Institute, internationalinstitute.com, but gmiinstitute.com. We have the first introduction to auriculotherapy. It's called What is Auriculotherapy? It's the 3rd of October, so I don't know if this has been out. If not, contact us for the next event. We're going to do it again, and we're going to record it so that you can see it. And also we teach around the world. We teach from Copenhagen, we teach from Portugal, we teach from Switzerland and London. And so we teach in many different places and in different things about auriculotherapy. And most of my specific color teaching has been with the Color World Light project. That is where you and me, we know each other from also, where we work together. But if there is anything that you want to know, please feel free to contact me. The easiest is to go to gmiinstitute.com and then find my email address there and contact me in that way. You're always welcome to ask me any questions that is related to auriculotherapy, posturology, chromotherapy. Please.
Yeah, I feel like you've really opened up a lot of options for people to explore, and at the same time really showing how it's all interconnected and how there's different avenues to go down. And yeah, I feel like I could talk with you for many hours, but I think where we can leave it, in addition to the things you already have going on, is, like I mentioned, October 10th, we have our free event, the Color Lights Gifts to the World, where you and I and the rest of the team is going to be there kind of cycling through different colors, different experiences. Should be probably about an hour, maybe hour and a half. And you can go to Gabrielle's website and I'll put a link to it along with this episode. But ultimately that's leading to our full event, November 11th and 12th. It's a weekend retreat. So it's a color and light immersions. So the October 10th will be a little teaser, a little experience where you can dip your toes in. And then if you feel inclined to really fully jump in, then definitely consider joining us on November 11th and 12th. Rikke and I are teaming up to do the section on healing. So kind of like we were talking about today, we're going to be just giving even more tangible and practical ways for people to experience that.
Yeah, that's going to be very practical. Yeah, we're gonna do very practical stuff that you can actually do at the retreat, and that we hope that you will carry with you afterwards to maybe put into your life a way that you can to treat yourself, some inspiration how to work with your own emotions, your own traumas. Yeah, so it's very as hands-on as it can be on a seminar retreat. Yeah.
All virtual. And I mean, that's, like you said before, it is a global team that we've created. So Hopefully one day we'll set up an in-person color light immersion. But for now, I think this is going to be a really fun weekend. And I know it's been a little while since I've been a part of a retreat. So I'm just really looking forward to this. And so keep an eye out for that. Check the description and the links and everything and see if that works for your schedule. We'd love to have you be a part of it.
Yeah.
And
10/10/23 and 11/11/23.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We were a little intentional about that. 10/10 and 11/11.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really want to thank you for speaking with me today. And I feel very filled up with color at the moment, even just based off our talk. And I've never been to Denmark, so I know who to call when I visit for the first time.
Oh, I will be so pleased when you come here one day, Nathan. And thank you very much for inviting me and giving me a platform and an opportunity to share my passion and to share the knowledge that I have and that can really help many people. I'm really happy to listen also to what you have to say about this, the way of working with the eyes. It's very interesting, and it's something that I already use a little part of. But it's always amazing to be in the same room as you, Nathan. I always think that we have really good a good connection and good communication, and I'm really looking forward to the retreat that we're doing together. So I'm really happy that you invited me in for this little talk, this little preview.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a blast. And yeah, turns out the eyes and ears go really well together. So
yes, truly. Yeah.
All right, Rikke. Well, thank you again. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you everybody for listening and watching. And stay tuned for more episodes coming out soon. But thank you everybody, and we'll catch you next time.